Hi, everybody. This is Gary Gomes. I just wanted to show you my new surroundings before I put up the automatic screen, which I normally do. I had hoped to have my camera hooked up by today, but such was not the case, and I have to study it a little bit more. I thought it was going to be a simple plug and play, and that wasn't the case. So this is my new office, and it's still in comparative to disarray. We're going to have some nice pictures of the planets behind me and other stuff. But what we're going to do is we're going to resort to uh, the screen um, that we had before. Let's see now, because this is going to look awfully boring. I think if I just have me talking with you in this way. At least I'm a little bit further away, so I don't seem like I'm quite in your face. And I also have microphones I want to set up so with the recording quality will catch all the imperfections of my voice, not just some of them. And so let me just see if I can get this working to where I want it to. See now, okay. Sorry for wasting your time. I should have had this all set up already. My apologies. So I choose a virtual background, and we're going to go out into space again. Okay, so we're back in space again. And one of the reasons I wanted to focus on the space theme, especially this week, is because I just recently learned of a comet that would be approaching the Earth or visible from the Earth in around February 2nd, I believe. And the comet has been given a designation of oh gosh, I can't remember the designation, but it's a C designation, and it's going to be a green comet. Now, green comets aren't that particularly unusual. What is unusual about this particular comet is that it's been the last time it visited was 50,000 years ago. So we have no historical context unless you were around at that time for this particular comet's activity or influence. And comets are, by their very nature, they're considered to be generally bad omens in Vedic astrology. There are some exceptions, but believe me, I misdiagnosed the exceptions when I was looking at the comet in 2019. A comet came in 2019, and I said, "Oh, it should be fairly auspicious." And according to Mahira, it should be a prosperous time, good crops, etc., etc. But comets always indicate the fall of, almost always indicate the fall of a leader. There are very few exceptions to that, or deaths, or some kind of natural events taking place that are not really that great. So we're looking at back 50,000 years ago. We can't really see what's happening. This is the chart for today. By the way, my name is Gary Gomes. You can contact me, Dr. Gary Gomes, if I want to be pretentious. You can contact me at 508-525-0001. I'm still not quite out of the Christmas season. You can see by the green and red, but I thought the green would be suitable because this is an emerald like comet. And comets almost always introduce new ways of doing things. They're unexpected events. This was certainly unexpected. And also they change things. Sometimes they change things in the long run. Disruptive events change things for the better. In the short run, they're not too pleasant, just to be straightforward with you. So we did have a green comet occur in 2006, 2015. Shortly after that, depending on your perspective, the United States went crazy, or it actually started undertaking some necessary reforms. And also certain parts of the world became more, or we're heading towards a more authoritarian system of government. And there was another comet, I believe, in 2020, but that doesn't, comets don't autocorrect. They don't reverse the indication of another comet. Now, so let's just talk about what comets do in general. They can be disease bringers, as they were in 2019, but that was a particular set of circumstances that. So I'm going to go to February 2nd for this chart. Hope you can still see it. So this is when it will be closest or most visible to the Earth. And they're saying it's going to end up in somewhere in the Whale constellation. I can never get that name quite right, but somewhere between here and there, roughly, maybe the middle of Scorpio. But it's the reason I find that fascinating in particular is because this is the rising sign, as far as I can tell, the rising sign of Joe Biden and the moon of Donald Trump. So these two people are astrologically inexplicable, not inexplicably, they're linked astrologically. And I think it's kind of fascinating this will happen after Trump hits. So I don't want to spend too much time on Trump because I just, I don't want to appear to be taking sides, and I'm really not. I'm just analyzing charts. But Trump will also enter a new adverse Saturn transit, but so will Joe Biden. And it's called a Kantaka Shani, and it's Saturn in the fourth house from the rising sign. You can use either one of those. Now, what this particularly means, I think for Biden, it'll mean an attack on his health, maybe even on his effectiveness and his credibility. The same thing will happen to Donald Trump, but Donald Trump will be tasked, both will be tasked with reestablishing their credibility. Depending on, now, Biden's chart overall looks better than Trump's chart, to be honest. Although Biden is in a dangerous subperiod. He's in what they call a Morocco subperiod, at least according to the chart that I have. Trump is also in a Morocco. Saturn will be transiting a Morocco house. So does that mean either of them will die? No, I don't think that's really, it's going to be really quite as dramatic as that. But I think you'll see events happening over the next couple of years, which will make it difficult for either of them to continue on. And I think just from a basic political standpoint, this is the United States is 12th house is in Scorpio. I think we're going to see a lot of international intrigue and even coup attempts around the world over the next couple of years. So comet results don't happen automatically. They take a little bit of time to manifest. I still stick with my earlier observations that both you're going to see a lot, an incredible amount of technological innovation over the next couple of years. And I think that's good. However, the United States will be the United States in particular, because its moon is in the sign. And it'll have a lot more responsibility thrust onto it. It'll have a lot more, just trying to think of the right words to say, a lot more accountability thrust onto it. And I would say it'll be frozen in place for about the next year or so. And the world economy will be, as I've said many times before, the world economy will have, I honestly think you're going to see increased political and military activity to destabilize the world economy in general. It's not conspiratorially based, it's politically motivated. And so I differ in some of the folks that look at it saying that basically, yeah, most societies, with a few exceptions, have done an incredible job of basically taking away the buffer between the rich and the poor. Essentially that's the middle class. So the middle class is still an aspirational class. It's still interested in moving forward in helping people. It's a class by which people go from lower income states, which are not really their fault. It's the same. We've inherited systems of privilege that date back thousands of years. This isn't a new phenomenon. So if anybody tells you this happened with the advent of one economic system or another, that's blatantly untrue. But certain economic systems will exacerbate inequities. That certainly is true. And but I think that a lot of what's happened in countries around the world is we have this we have these starts and stops towards reform. Some people want to keep the system stable as it is. Other people want to see it reformed. Other people want to see it just done away with. And other people have religious and spiritual agendas which have nothing to do with economics, but have to do with establishing or maintaining a belief system as to how people should live. So all these things, it's not really history is more complicated than a lot of people would like you to believe. And I think one of the things is we can look at as Saturn essentially aspecting Jupiter, making us more dogmatic, more afraid of change. Okay. And that's actually true on both sides of the political spectrum because everybody wants to be right. Everybody wants to essentially smash down whoever doesn't agree with them. And I think, and this has been true. I've seen this true really since, or I would say around 2000. Yeah, basically around 2000. 2008, a starter on it, but even more virulently around 2015. And a lot of that has to do with Saturn in Cancer in 2000, really around 2002, and just essentially ossifying changes. Just people's, or I was around 2004, and ossifying changes, and K2 was conjunct at the same time. So we're in sort of like a 30-year cycle of rigidity. And I think one of the things I've said repeatedly is I see more in common with this particular epoch with the 1960s. Obviously some differences, but with the 1960s than with any epoch I've lived through so far. As far as the comet goes, so let's go back to the comet. Comet's green, which is generally good for prosperity. So 2015, 2016, we start to see recovery, or more so recovery from the Great Recession. And I think, but also it shifted power a little bit. So you had that paved the way for a person like Donald Trump. Comets also introduced untrustworthy elements and fear of lies and deceit. And that came up, and also spying activities. K2 is really it's a thief. K2, all comets are K2s. Okay, so K2, for those of you who don't know astrology or Vedic astrology in particular, K2 is a liberating planet, but it's also a thief. Okay, so it steals things from people, or people have the perception that things are being stolen from them. So 2015, 2016, that set up a perfect kind of an environment for people to claim that they were reclaiming their heritage, and other people claimed that they were stealing an election. And that hasn't gone away. That cycle of deception and lack of trust has been building, as far as I can tell, since the 1960s. It's not really, it's not a new phenomenon in the world. Okay, just to let you know. But it seems to it with the advent of cable news and the United States having a Mercury Rahu conjunction, and it sort of like makes it worse, because we're always communicating back and forth and saying, okay, well, this happened, or this person said this, or this person did that, or this person, and isn't it scandal? And we're always looking for scandals. We're always looking for, oh, that guy did that, that guy did that, and some of it's true. Okay, some of it's true. We live in a very the world isn't a nice place, but as I said to an individual I was talking to, who was going through a difficult period, we were talking about the sun being considered a malefic planet. I'm going to start talking about the sun next week. Hopefully I'll have my camera working, and you'll be able to see me a little more clearly. But basically, the sun is a malefic planet. And one of the things it just came off the top of my head. I said, well, life is tough, isn't it? So So the sun gives life. To maintain life, so it's a gift. Okay, life is a gift. It's a gift according to Indian belief that we experience joy or we experience fulfillment of desires. And when those desires are fulfilled or when we no longer need those things, we free ourselves. Okay. And K2 eclipses the sun. Okay. So comets are, they approach the sun, so you can understand the connection between K2 and comets. They approach the sun, they pass by, but they never stay for a long time. And K2s are eclipses of the sun also. Okay. So but they're unknown objects in the sky. They're obscurers, they're confusers. And confusion is the main province of a person who tries to steal things from us or who tries to take things away. But there's always some level of responsibility assumed in taking life. Okay. It's work. Life is work. The sun's child in Indian astrology is Saturn. Saturn is responsibility, burdens. Okay. So essentially, if we're looking at life to be easy, we're not looking at life. We're looking at life as um, a gift that really isn't. It's given by our parents, by the act that they engage in, but it's also given as a chance for the soul to learn more, right? So there's always responsibility in life. There's always some kind of pressure to, I mean, it's work to even feed yourself, right? Even if you just sit there and say, oh, I'll just have leftovers, or I'll just go out to a fast food restaurant, or I'll just grab some stuff from the ground. You have to make some effort. You have to at least move your jaws in order to eat, right? So I open your mouth to drink. So there's always some kind of effort connected with life. It's not, you're not going to magically attain it. And then all of a sudden just go like, like nothing can touch me. I'm vulnerable. That's not real. Okay. So I think, so again, the idea that life is a challenge and that we're all going to be magically freed or have a wonderful new age where everything is going to be given to us. I kind of dislike that type of thinking because what it does is it makes us, yeah, I believe in trusting the divine. That's not the idea. But even asking for something is making an effort. So you're not just going to sit where you are and everything's going to be given to you. Okay. It's just, that's not going to happen. People who maybe inherited fortunes, they may have that kind of luck. People that have been gifted things, they have that kind of luck. But those are, even in the grand scheme of things, those are temporaries. Okay. So I think it's, yeah, life is work. And K2 is intended to disrupt the work and present us with new challenges, either for innovation or for technology. But I do think you're going to see a lot more activity around the world connected with secrecy, connected with subterfuge, connected with other people in secret trying to undercut other people, or else taking a stance of character assassination. And I think we're not going to get away from that really for about another 10 years. And the thing that worries me about this is this sets up the conditions for wars to start. So I think one thing I would encourage you to do is if you see something negative about somebody, don't be don't be very quick to believe. Be a little skeptical, dig into it a little bit yourself. Okay, because essentially I've seen a lot of um, what I would call parody behavior. And as we're talking right now, we have that Saturn in opposition. Saturn, Jupiter gives that dogmatism. Saturn will move out of the sign, so we'll at least be a little bit free of dogmatism for about 2 months, 2 to 3 months or so. That dogmatic behavior and a little bit more spiritually inclined. But that's not going to last very long. And the Saturn Rahu aspect will also be a problem for us. I think if you have this Mars, and I am worried about Marcus, especially after April. And again, this is going to sound like a broken record, but I think we'll have at least a relatively placid time. The Venus-Saturn conjunction notwithstanding. Also, comets do tend to encourage things like breakups or relationships. So I'd encourage people who have Libra, Aries, Taurus, or Gemini to be really careful about relationship life over the next few months. I'm going to talk about the Chinese New Year over the next couple of weeks. And I am going to get into some of the astrological remedies and solutions that are available to us as individuals. But just watch, we have a lot of activity in Sagittarius, Capricorn, Pisces, Aries, and Taurus, Libra, and Cancer this week. And a lot of that has to do with home life, preserving home life, has to do with making good financial decisions. K2 over here is not really a good financial decision placement. And Mercury's retrograde, so communications are just bonkers. But again, it also gives us a chance to say, sit back and reflect and say, is it really important, or how can I to criticize others rather than communicate with them? Okay, and I think that that's the next 3 weeks. If I can encourage anyone to do that, it's really to reflect on how we connect with people, how we identify with people, because the first impulse is to lose our tempers because with Mars is aspecting Mercury and the Sun, and we saw that the other night in the election of the Speaker of the House. Friday night. Essentially the full moon, right? So we just had in Vedic astrology, we just had a sun in Gemini, moon. I'm sorry, a sun in Sagittarius, moon in Gemini, full moon. So that would have caused anger because Mars is aspecting the sun. Okay, it would have caused some stubbornness because Jupiter's in an angle here, and using different systems of Vedic astrology, Sun, Jupiter, Moon, and Virgo were all aspecting each other. So this is not surprising. It's not surprising you're going to see a lot of resistance to change over the next few months. But again, like I said, maybe things will calm down just a little bit. People will get back to their pure places, and you'll see a little bit more, hopefully a little bit more civility. But again, I'm not really that optimistic about that because Mars is going to keep influencing Mercury over the next few months. And that's, it's really that influence isn't going to go away really for about 5 or 6 months. So we are going to have a lot of miscommunication, a lot of deception, especially political deception. And like I said, this is true not only in the United States but around the world. Okay, so I've yammered on enough about that aspect of the chart. Let's go on to your individual signs. And my apologies, I didn't want to take that much time on that. So your individual signs, Aries has, again, this is a similar chart to what we've been looking at for the past few months, except the moon has changed and Mercury's retrograde. So Aries is going to be really obsessed with financial growth, and recovering financial growth is going to be a little bit kinder and nicer this week than normal. Relationship life will still be troubled. K2's right in the middle of a sign. It's really, really strong. And Sun and Mercury are in the ninth house. So again, communications are very strong for the sign. Communications with children will be damaged. Career life will be good, but a lot of people will feel like work is actually pleasurable again because Venus and Saturn are together. But you won't see any real gains from work until next month. And again, there is this large tendency to spend. For Taurus, Taurus has Rahu in the 12th house. So again, it's a large spending pattern which shows up pretty strongly in the chart. And I'll slow down a little bit around January 23rd. And I think around January 23rd, you're going to see some economic contraction. Not because people will be a little bit afraid of making large expenditures. And that will definitely be true in January. But for now, a lot of pretty heavy expenditure pattern. Moon is in the third house. The sign's going to be more polite, more courteous. K2's in the sixth house. You have to watch out for accidents and for health threats. And let's look over here. Sun is in the eighth house, so this sign will lack confidence. But relationship partners will bring in money. And career life and educational life actually looks good for the sign. And financial gains are promised for Taurus. For Gemini, good career success, but a lot of work, especially through January 23rd. And I'll talk more about the Saturn transit to Aquarius next week. Moon is in the fourth house. Oh, by the way, I expect problems with disposal systems, sanitation, maybe even disruptions. I've spoken about earthquakes before, but that's earthquakes and volcanoes, which Hawaii still seems to be threatened by with this transit, with this comet coming over here. Okay. All right. So let's get back to the sign. Gemini is going to do well financially, monetarily. And again, some communications problems with children, but not bad. Relationship life for this sign will be the main focus for this sign. But again, not a lot of happiness from relationships, not for maybe about another month or so. And Jupiter's in the 10th house. This sign will show a lot of career growth and a lot of fame. But again, there is some concern about this sign being attacked or taken advantage of in relationship activities. Moon is in Cancer. The moon is in its own sign. It's really in a good nakshatra. It's a Pushya nakshatra, which is the best nakshatra for starting all things except for marriages. So if you want to start something today, good day to do it generally. The moon is a little bit past full, but it's still a strong moon, so this is not really a bad one. It's a heated nakshatra. I very rarely talk about these, so a lot of things, there's a tendency to get a little bit overexert yourself and also lose your temper, so be wary of that. But for Cancer, Cancer has Saturn and Venus in the 10th house, so relationship life will start to smooth out a little bit and get much better after January 23rd. Health issues are still a concern for the sign. Issues with home life will seem, and status in life will seem very troubling. And Jupiter goes to the 9th house, so it'll give gains, but slow gains to the sign, and some success, but some dissatisfaction with work life. Some financial gains through property, but these will be from the past. For Leo, Leo has um, the sun is in the fifth house, so that's a good placement. So a lot of Leo's previous work will be recognized. Saturn and Venus are in um, the sixth house. Um, the eighth house. So the seventh house is surrounded by um, one malefic and one benefic. But basically, uh, Jupiter in the eighth house will give good gains for relationship partners. Rahu in the ninth uh, gives uh, some temporary luck. Mars in the 10th gives a lot of work stamina. Now, for some people, this particular combination will actually be good, and I think you'll see a lot of growth uh, for uh, for Leo over the next couple of months. For Virgo, Virgo has Mars in the ninth, not a particularly friendly planet for Virgo rising, for Virgo sun or Virgo rising, but Jupiter's in the seventh that protects that ascendant. A lot of relearning of the past, a lot of reviewing of the past, a lot of reviewing mistakes that were made. And Saturn and Venus in the fifth house are good for uh, hard work connected with artistic endeavors or with pleasure. And Jupiter in the seventh house will make this a very attractive sign to many individuals. Moon in the 11th, new friends, new friends who are very special and very talented. For a Libra, Libra still has K2 in the first house. It's right in the middle of the sign, so it'll be at its strongest over the next couple of months. And for this particular sign, Rahu's in the seventh house, so this will give a lot of difficulty with relationship partners. Relationship partners will seem a little bit greedy or a little bit forceful over the next couple of months. Mercury and Sun are in the seventh house, but again, there'll be a lot of what I would call false attractions for this sign. So, and not necessarily partners can't be trusted, but they'll have to be watched. They'll have to be reined in a little bit because they'll be overly optimistic. They'll be overly generous. And there's not much you can do to stop it, but you can at least try to tone it down a little bit. And Sun and Mercury in the third house, that's actually good for courage for the sign. Saturn and Venus in the fourth house. There's a feeling of being trapped or isolated at home. And last but not least, you have Jupiter in the sixth house. So enemies will masquerade as friends, basically. So you'll have people saying, well, you really don't want to do that, do you? It's not really, it's not really what you want to do. But in fact, you really want to do it. And there'll be a lot of changes in April when Jupiter hits Rahu for this particular sign. And Mars in the eighth, again, Libra can't be taken advantage of a little bit by relationship partners. But this is also beneficial to them because they can actually get increased financial gain through their relationship partners. And this also includes business relationships. So this is the friend who says to you, well, do you really want to change your life to do that? Is it really going to be worth it? And to you, it absolutely is. Okay, so I think that's one thing that Libras have to sort of, because of K2 in the first house, they've been a little bit scattered over the past year or so, and willing to give up things. But if you have a particular vision in mind, this is one of the best times to realize it, because K2 gives. K2 is an absolutely unbreakable connection to the divine. So it won't feel comfortable, but if it's really something you want to do, or you want that you had your mind on for a long time, or your eyes on for a long time, then pursue it, because it will come relatively easily during this transit. This transit expires in November. So Scorpio, let's go to Scorpio. Scorpio has Again, some relationship problems, these won't go away for about another couple of months, to be quite honest. But wealth is good, financial growth is good. Um, they'll be more polite, less demanding, less authoritarian when they speak with people. That's a good thing. And Jupiter sits in their fifth house, which is good for financial luck and financial gains. Rahu is in the sixth house, so this will give some problems with health issues or some anxiety about health issues. Moon is in the ninth house, so that gives changeable luck. Luck will start to shift in your favor this month, Scorpio. And K2's in the 12th, so again, be careful not to spend money on things you won't get anything out of. Okay, it's just, you know, sure, you can do some things which will entertain you. You know, that's not, I'm not telling you to be a monk, but um, there's a good potential to waste money with this placement. For Sagittarius, Sagittarius has Jupiter in the fourth, so there's a lot of focus on learning, but it's slow learning. But Saturn and Venus in the second house will bring more financial growth to this particular sign. Rahu in the fifth, again, there's a lot of desire for new things coming in, and some things will come in without you wanting them to come in, but they'll require a lot of work because of this Mars in the sixth house. Moon is in the eighth, a lot of interest in finding out what's going on behind the scenes, or what's really the problem in a situation, being more willing to investigate things. K2's in the 11th house. Do not trust your friends. They'll steal from you. For Capricorn, Capricorn has Saturn and Venus in the first house. That's a really powerful combination for this particular rising sign. So pretty much you'll be able to pursue what you want to pursue. Career-wise, this sign will actually start to prosper a little bit. It'll get unexpected opportunities this week. Jupiter's in the third house. Diplomatic skills are strong. Communication skills are strong. Rahu's in the fourth, a lot of dissatisfaction with home life. Mars is in the fifth. There's a lot you can gain, but you have to work for it. You have to ask for it. Okay, so just assuming people will give you something won't work for you. Relationship life will be a little bit interesting because the wife or the relationship or the business partners will be good and helpful, but it's not a good time for this particular sign to get married. And K2 in the 10th, which I already alluded to before, is given a certain lack of career recognition over the past year or so. But that will come back at the end of this year. For Aquarius, we're almost done. For Aquarius, we have Jupiter and Venus sort of surrounding the first house. I'm doing, there's a combination called the Shubha Katara Yoga. And Katari just means scissors. Shubha means a good scissors yoga. And I'm giving myself some artistic license or some astrological license to say that we have a Shubha Katara yoga surrounding Aquarius. So that's, again, another good opportunity for this particular sign to gain things. Jupiter's in the second house, and I think this will actually give a good opportunity to gain money. Again, there is a tendency to spend money. Don't do it stupidly. Do it for spiritual growth. Do it for educational purposes. It'll pay off. Mars is in the fourth house. Still some arguments or still some discussions at home. Moon is in the sixth. Some worry about health issues, but not really. These really aren't major health issues. And also some good prospects for spiritual sadhana or spiritual life. K2's in the ninth house. Unexpected learning experiences. So you'll hit like sudden realizations or sudden peaks. So I mean, fascinatingly enough, I was thinking about the outbreak of conspiracy theories, just to digress for a second, in 2000, um, in 2000, leading up to the um, 2020 election. And then when I went back and looked at videos on YouTube around 2000, between roughly 1990, I saw a lot of conspiracy theories. I remember Hillary Clinton talking about a vast right-wing conspiracy against her husband. And I also ran across a bunch of videos um, after the 2001 towers, in which you have both left and right-wing conspiracy theories bouncing all over the place. So we're acting like this is new. This isn't new. This has been with us for the past 30 years at least. All right, so and it's become troubling because it's because it's right wing, but basically it's always been troubling. Um, and and so we have so let's go back to Aquarius. 10th house ruler is Mars, so the person will work a lot from home. And again, Sun and Mercury are in the 11th house. There'll be gains through authority or through taking leadership or through taking. So you're interested in doing anything politically or in applying for promotions, good time to do it. Finally, Pisces, Jupiter's in the first house. And I won't say right away, but after January 23rd, my apologies. Pisces, so if you're going to go for leadership of your Aquarius, go after January 23rd. For Pisces, Pisces has Jupiter in the first house, and that's good for general guidance. But again, Pisces has a sort of like mystical connection and a spiritual connection. So causes will seem more important than money. But again, we're kind of like rigid in terms of that. Rahu's in the second house, so there'll be a lot of dissatisfaction indicated from the sign, especially regarding financial growth. Moon is in the fifth house, which is actually quite good. It gives us the chance to learn new things, to explore new things, to discover new things. K2's in the eighth house. Again, more interest in metaphysical, but again, be careful about accidents or traveling. Ninth house Lord is Mars, again, in the fourth house or in the third house. So again, travel alert, just in general, just be careful traveling with Mars retrograde. And finally, Sun and Mercury are in the 10th house. Career life should expand and financial gain should expand. Now let's look at the world map. And I'm going to give you some new videos later on this week. We're going to look at this. And this is going to be small, but I'm going to be wasting a lot of time trying to correct it. So I don't want to do that. So interestingly enough, we do have a Mars line going over Hawaii. We had another eruption at Kilauea this past week. I've been saying that for the past few weeks. The Aleutians are also somewhat in danger of earthquakes, but it's not quite as strong as Hawaii because of this combination with Mercury. And I think so. Mercury and Mars both rule the Earth. So you'll see so this is what caused, and Venus is what's causing the intense rains in California right now. And you also have a lot of focus on California right now, just because of economics, but also the Pacific Northwest and lower parts of Vancouver. As you go over here, there's a sun line going through Arizona, so you're going to see more government involvement in border issues and more communications about border issues coming up. It's interesting that the mayor of New York went on TV or actually started complaining about that he couldn't handle all the immigrants coming in to a city. I think that's a sign of a change. You're going to see a change in immigration policies over the next couple of months from this particular placement, I think. Not that they're going to start sending people back. I don't think that's the issue, but I think you're going to see some adjustments. The other thing is you have they'll start to actually develop a policy as opposed to excuse my face, as opposed to just allowing relocation willy-nilly across the country. I need to look at this more carefully. My apologies. There's a Jupiter, a rising sign line over over Jupiter, and that's a Scorpio rising. So over the East Coast and close to New York City and close to Washington. So we're going to see more investigations, not fewer investigations, over the next few months. And this will also be true. I wouldn't be very surprised if a lot of the government instability in Ecuador and Chile and Argentina is being externally generated. Not necessarily by the U.S., but by other countries. Not necessarily just by the U.S., but by other countries. And there will be some disruption in Brazil over here, all throughout Brazil and through Paraguay and Uruguay. And let's see, Venus is close to Iceland and Saturn. So there's a Venus-Saturn line over Iceland and Greenland and the Azores. The Azores are like stuck right in between it. And that'll give some financial growth. I'm sorry, some financial limitations to those particular regions and also to Western Africa, and even some potential for fighting in Western Africa, fortunately, especially around this region, around Sierra Leone, and I'm sorry, not Sierra Leone, around, oh God, I used to be so good at geography. Near Gabon. Okay, I apologize to Africa. I'm so sorry. I'll just explain my age. And you can see some attempts at governmental reform in both the UK and England and Italy, all the way down here. And there's a lot of activity in Europe right now, all the way from Norway down to Northern Africa. And this area looks a little bit how you say, congested. Some governmental reforms in Turkey. Whether or not there'll be enough, I'm not sure, but I think you'll see some governmental reforms in Turkey, but also some repressive actions in Turkey, and some changes in government in Saudi Arabia. I'm not saying the royal family is going to leave, but there'll be some adjustments. Iran is still in horrible shape. I don't think I wouldn't be surprised to see more uprisings or more protests in Iran, and even down into Pakistan and Afghanistan, because of the lines I'm seeing in the chart. That Mars and Saturn line is still hitting Eastern India, is still hitting China. And again, I can't help but think there's going to be a conflict there sooner rather than later. I hope I'm wrong about that. The last thing we need is another conflict. I forgot to go over the Ukraine. Ukraine will still continue to be an issue over the next few months. I think January 23rd, and after you'll start to see some formation of a peace agreement being reached. But um, I don't think it will be without cost to the Ukraine. It certainly costs Russia. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that it didn't. I think that whenever you have conflicts like this, there's always a little bit, both sides lose in a war. Okay, so the Russians certainly have some bad energy connected with them, but the Ukraine will have to give up something. Mars is also passing over Sri Lanka, which makes me worry about violence down there or conflict. And as we go over China, we have a descending Jupiter line going over China. So again, it's getting kind of back to the Chinese government's probably going to impose sanctions of some kind to stop people from working. And it's the same is true in Indonesia. And we have Mercury sun lines going through Korea and Japan. So Korea is still kind of tense right now. It's still wanting to test people. And Japan looks okay. Basically, it's a little bit worried about Korea, but it looks okay. And there's a Moon Rahu line running basically close to Australia. So Australia's in a little bit of a difficult state in terms of its economy. New Zealand will start to feel hits on its economy over the next few weeks. Good news, I've been asked to take over editorial responsibilities for Saptarishi magazine. Is going to be relaunched. It's a magazine put out by a gentleman named Sunil John. And so I'm looking for authors who want to write on Vedic astrology. So if you want to do that, contact me at 508-525-001 or at neivas@comcast.net. Still working on a book, still working on articles, still working on school. People who want to study with me can study with me right now if they so wish. And again, that's Gary Gomes. And you can look at my background pretty much on Facebook or online in a variety of publications that I put out. And I do teach. I do teach one-on-one right now, and I'm planning on getting a more formal, structured educational program together. And I also do readings, so I can look at your chart and say, okay, this is what's going on with you, and this is what you can do to fix it, or at least correct it a little bit. Okay, so contact me, please, and I hope you have a great day. Welcome to 2023, and I hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week. I love you all, and thank you very, very much for watching. And I promise I'll get my camera set up properly. Promise, promise, promise. Okay, thanks a lot, folks. Bye-bye now. Stay healthy, and I wish you realization. That's something I used to use when I was in college, signing off. Okay, bye-bye now.